Meanwhile, the African Union and France have condemned the attempt by soldiers to overthrow the government. The head of the African Union, Moussa Faki Mohamed, spoke against the coup, reaffirming the AU's total rejection of all unconstitutional change of power. In a statement, the French Foreign Ministry spokesperson condemned the attempt to change the government outside constitutional rules, advising its citizens to avoid the capital. Journalists have pointed to the close and personal links between Gabon's elite families as evidence of powerful networks of patronage. Under former President Omar Bongo, the father of the current president, Gabon was seen by critics as a key part of the shadowy Francophone network. The term refers to allegations that France has covertly intervened to support African dictatorships and overthrow unfriendly governments if it served French interests. We have with us now in the studio African Affairs analyst Achike Chude to discuss more on this. Happy New Year, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Yeah, Happy New Year too.
So let's begin generally with all that's happened, with your thoughts on all that's happened in Gabon today.
Well, I mean, when I first heard of it, it was like, well, one step backward, two steps forward, one step backwards. You were beginning to get used to the idea of, democracies in Africa, even if they are not working. But at least virtually all the countries of Africa, we have, democracies. Apart from the fact that, yes, sectarianism is also one of the major problems with the democracy we have. We have not exactly transited to that level, of governance where the ideals and the ethos of, democracy would actually be respected and, be imbibed by the people in general. So it was not exactly so much a shock, but it was a surprise that it could happen. If you look at Gabon itself, has been one of the few stable African countries in terms of non-military intervention. They've only had about three presidents. The present President Ali Bongo, Omar Bongo, and then the man that was overthrown in 1964. So it has been unlike most other African countries that have seen about as much as maybe 10 different regimes, most of them military. Bongo has been more, Gabon has been more or less, stable, even though you cannot exactly say that what you have is the ideals in terms of democracy.
Yeah, so the Ali Bongo's family has been in power for over 50 years. Yeah. Is a coup what Gabon needs right now?
No, a coup is not what Africa needs, at this particular point in time, especially Gabon at this, critical point in time. The reality is that, again, we also have to emphasize the fact that African democratic leaderships have to begin to perform, have to begin to walk the talk, have to begin to give the people, the dividends of a true democracy. And so we cannot take it for granted that the military will never make incursions into political power anymore in Africa. You don't want to give them that opportunity. And so you, in a polity that is not exactly working, racked with mass unemployment, hunger, poverty, and the rest, just as such as we have in Gabon, there's always the tendency, always that possibility that you could have some people, misadventurous people, I'll use that expression for them, just like we have now, who might have the itching finger and want to have a taste of the pie. It's not about patriotism. In fact, in virtually all the coups that we have had in Africa, it was never about patriotism. It was about the greed of a few who had the means of coercion and just shot themselves to power and remain there. Except maybe apart from maybe Thomas Sankara, virtually all of them have gone the same way. So a coup is not one thing Africa needs. It's definitely not what Gabon needs at this particular point in time. Of course, you can see that the AU has been very swift in condemnation, of the attempt by the coup plotters.
I want to get your thoughts on this. Some people are saying, is this really a coup or a call for action by these junior officers who are calling for the youth to stand up for an end to Ali Bongo's presidency? Is it a call to action for the end of the regime?
I think it was a frustrated coup attempt because you can't exactly call it a coup. Yeah. Yes, the fact that some soldiers, carried on, tried to take over power with through acts of violence is clearly an indication that, of course, they are soldiers. But again, just like we had in Zimbabwe, there are people who actually described it has not exactly been a coup. It did not meet all the fine points of a coup. The same thing here. We just have a motley crowd of people, about 4 or 5 of them, all of them on the run. One of them was caught hiding under the bed. And then the fact that they had carried out this, act of, would you call it insubordination or mutiny, and then we're now calling on the Gabonese people to rise up against the government of the day, clearly tells you that they were not in charge, they were not in control. Because the military does not share power with anybody. So you want to shoot your way to power, you do it all the way, you know the consequences if you're caught. So immediately I read that, before it unfolded to this level where it collapsed, and I read that they were already calling for Gabonese to get involved in the in the coup attempt and take their destinies in their own hands. I knew it wasn't going to succeed. I knew that they did not have the requisite leverage. I knew that they were not exactly in tune with the hierarchy of the military, whom they also accused of sitting by while Ali Bongo ran Gabon aground and then told lies about his health situation. And so these were some of the things. But again, I would also agree with you that it's a call to action, because the fact that you had people sharing this kind of sentiment is also indicative of the fact that there will be so many more, who have the same disposition towards the government of Ali Bongo. So a wise political leader will sit back and take stock and do some self-recrimination, self-introspection more or less, and then look for a way to move the country on a completely positive trajectory.
Let me get your thoughts on this quickly. The junior officers, they've been arrested now that attempted the whole coup situation. What consequences will they face now that they're arrested?
We have so many examples from Nigeria. Well, thank God these examples are in the past. But the price for this kind of action, really, is treason. But I think what might help is, you are trying to overthrow a legitimate government, regardless of how people perceive the government, but it is the legitimate government of Gabon. So the fact that they have done this in a military dispensation is, I would have answered you simply, is death by firing squad. But under this particular situation in Gabon, I want to believe that they will be prosecuted and then the full weight of the law will be carried out against them.
Okay, African Affairs analyst Chike Chude, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for joining us on Network.
It's a pleasure too.
Still to come on the program. Coptic Christians in Egypt celebrate Christmas today. Please stay with us.